Robert Parsons, stay with us. We're going to cross over to journalist Daniel Bensimon in Jerusalem, former Labour member of the Israeli Parliament. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
You're most welcome.
Since last Saturday, where you are, there was the shock, the grief, the rage. What's your personal mindset, if you will, when you see the calls for restraint and this will to avenge what happened, what Hamas inflicted?
I must tell you something. I don't remember for so many years a kind of, I would say an agreement among Israelis to go all the way against Gaza. Gaza is not a humanitarian issue anymore after they took the civilian hostages. So Israelis are around the government, not the government, but around the idea of, around the army, to first bring the hostages and then go to the political issues with Gaza. For the time being, there's a sense of vengeance, very strong among Israelis, especially since every minute you hear a story about a family taken to Gaza, about a baby being being beaten or just whatever. But the issue is today Israelis are busy with themselves, with their grief, with their sorrow. So you try to talk to them about Gaza, they say it's not the time. First, give us our people, and then we talk. We're talking about babies, kids, elderly, not the regular civilians taken to hostages. It's, something, an ensemble of quite, different people.
Yeah, Daniel, what's your gut feeling? Which is the better track if you're an Israeli and you want to get those hostages out? Is it what's going on behind the scenes with the likes of Egypt, Turkey, Qatar, to a lesser degree the United States even, or is it via just a purely military solution?
I think that first it's the military solution. You give us our people, we'll start talk to you about Gaza. And of course, President Biden, who is like a messiah here now, after the speech he's given 2 days ago, he can say anything, he can do anything with the Israelis, and they will go after him. So as I said, the Americans, the American president, of course, and the Egyptians can play a role. So diplomacy can come after a gesture is done on the issue of hostages. As long as there is no hostages, the issue of hostages is not resolved, I don't think the Israelis will go for it.
Daniel, Robert Parsons here. Just a question to put to you as well. You've been talking about the likelihood and the desire on the part of Israelis for vengeance and for the army to go in to rescue the hostages, in effect. But my question to you is this: it's not going to be easy, is it, to get those hostages? And for their part, Hamas is saying we won't release them until the battle is over. And the longer the battle goes on, the more likelihood there is that the hostages will themselves suffer, either be killed in the bombardment or perhaps be killed by their captors. This is clearly a concern that the Israeli army has to take into account, surely. Absolutely.
But what I'm saying is that we don't know yet how many hostages are in Gaza. We don't know where they are. We don't know who is there, who are the people, their identity. We know nothing. And the Hamas is playing very tough on the very delicate issues, not telling the Israelis who are the people being held in Gaza. And this is doing a bad service to the Hamas and to the issue of hostages, because we don't know, are there 150 people, 150? And most of the hostages, especially the elderly, are people who need medicine. Are they doing well? Are they not doing well? So on this issue, Israel knows nothing from the Hamas.
But given that, Daniel, is it really feasible to talk, or wise even, to talk about a military solution now going into Gaza on the ground when the hostages are so vulnerable?
As I'm trying to read the Israeli psychology today, I must tell you that first comes the military issue, and then come the hostages. As I know, it sounds very bad, it sounds very hard, but the amount of vengeance. I mean, it's really pure vengeance that the way they handled the Israeli operation. I mean, the Israeli operation against Israel has left so many Israelis so angry that anything is possible. What the Israelis want today is that to give back, to pay back to Hamas by all means. Now, of course, a hostage can die during the operation, or 3 or 4. I think, in my mind, in the mind of the Israeli army, they are ready to go for it. First, we teach the Hamas a big lesson, and then we talk about the hostages.
Daniel Bensimon, please stay with us because we're going to cross over to Tel Aviv. France 24's Luke Schrago is there. We're talking about hostages, Luke, and a lot of them are dual nationals of many countries. There are 12 French people who've been killed and 17 who are missing. We don't know how many of those 17 are in fact hostages. You earlier attended a press conference from the community, the families of some of those who are believed to be hostages.
That's correct, François. 4 families of dual French-Israeli nationality held a press conference in Tel Aviv on Thursday afternoon. Now, this was a private initiative and an individual initiative, and they were telling collected journalists that they'd had zero contact, in their own words, from the Israeli authorities, and even when they contacted the French embassy, they were told very little indeed. They've had no word of their missing family members since Hamas's attack on Saturday morning. Now, they were all in visible distress. This sense of incomprehension reigned across. They told us their stories of their experiences of what had happened. Some of them had been attending the music festival that was close to Gaza when attacked. Others were attacked on their kibbutz. One of those families told us that they thought initially that it was just a rocket attack, something that they were sadly have been quite used to in the area. However, it was when they heard the cries and the shouts of Allah Akbar that they understood what was happening and just how bad the situation was. Some of those who managed to escape spoke of seeing hundreds of Hamas militants pouring out of Gaza. They told us they had come to destroy and to pillage. One thing that will stay with me is that they said that they had lived next to Gaza. They wanted peace, but they now understand just how lucky they were, especially when they heard word of the massacres in kibbutzim like Be'eri or Kfar Afar. Now, this sense of incomprehension again. They were saying how could people so young be taken? Speaking of the children that have been kidnapped, they have no place in war. Now, they've been requesting, even begging France for its help now. One grandmother stood up and addressed the room. She said she believed in France's humanitarian character. Others had a direct message for President Emmanuel Macron. They said that he needs to react as if Paris itself had been attacked by Hamas, as if Hamas had kidnapped children from Paris. Now, the question for these families now may be the hardest part, that's this sense of not knowing or whether they may indeed receive some kind of proof of life.
And Luke, there's that quandary that we've been discussing with Daniel Bensimon in Jerusalem, which is, at this point in time, are they rooting for negotiations or for the military to come in and rescue those hostages?
Well, at this point, it has to be said that the sense in Israel is one of overwhelming anger. We've been speaking to soldiers in the Israeli Defense Force, certainly when we went to visit the kibbutz of Be'eri previously. There is this sense of quiet and cold determination to not so much take revenge, but what one soldier had to say to me, he said that we need to go in, we need to leave our feelings and our hearts behind. And those who hate Israel will learn to fear it again. That is something that is going to remain with me for quite some time.
Luke Schrago reporting live from Tel Aviv. Daniel Bensimon, you listened to Luke recounting the tales he heard there, targeting a kibbutz, targeting that music festival. This is this is more the secular pro-peace camp that Hamas targeted. The irony here is, does it mean that Hamas, in a way, gets a win because that's the end of peace for a long, long time?
I must tell you, they chose the wrong people to take to Gaza. I mean, these are the peace camp, who was dancing the whole night in Gaza, near Gaza. Most of them are identified with the peace camp, and they are known to be peace activists. And these very people were taken to Gaza as hostages. So you can think about this, the irony of life, that those who are pro-peace are being punished for and taking hostages. And I must say that the chief of staff spoke 2 hours ago, and he said he spoke to Yahya Sinwar, the head of the Hamas, and he said, that his days are numbered. Not only him, but all his people. It seems to me that Israeli army is going for a very strong answer to the Hamas. It's already destroying Gaza, the city, and I don't remember a sense of rage like now. It's amazing how angry Israeli officers are, and they're ready to go the whole way to show the Hamas who's running this area. So in a way, as long as they don't get the list of the hostages, there's nothing you can do. They will attack, and they need the list. The list will give a sense that the Hamas is ready to talk. For the time being, they are not cooperating at all, and in a way, it leads the way to an Israeli military attack.
One final question for you. We're going to be hearing shortly from the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. He has been, as we said earlier, standing by Israel in his remarks. There was a bit of emotion in his voice when he spoke earlier. He's going to be meeting with the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Israel's government, the most right-wing government in the country's history, had been doing all it could to impose its might on the West Bank, leading up to the surprise attack coming from the Gaza Strip. How should Antony Blinken handle Mahmoud Abbas, who for the first time has denounced the killing of civilians on both sides since last Saturday?
As a pro-peace guy, I feel some pity for Mahmoud Abbas because he has not made any difference in the last 10 years. He's the president of the Palestinian authority, and it seems to me that he's not strong enough to face Israeli policy of Netanyahu and others. So maybe we need a change of mind and a change of action. How, in order to move a bit.
But how does Israel handle the Palestinian Authority now?
There's no handling of it. There's no talk at all. There's no. There is some, coordination with the Palestinian army.
Should they be reopening dialogue?
Excuse me?
Should the Israelis be reopening dialogue with the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah?
Absolutely. But somebody has to push for this kind of thing. And as I said, the Americans are not very present. And unfortunately, there's no force to push the Israelis and the Palestinian Authority to open a dialogue. For the time being, the Hamas and the Israeli government, Netanyahu government, which, as you said, we have never had such a thing, such a radical government. So the time is not good for peace. It's not good for the pro-peace parties. It's not good for peace dialogue. It's not good for dialogue. And something has to be done. And as I said, the boss is President Biden. In case he ask the Israelis or he makes a request to talk with the Palestinians, it can be done. For the time being, I'm sorry, for the last few years, nothing has been done on this issue.
Daniel Bensimon, so many thanks for speaking with us from Jerusalem.